Hey everyone, John Doyle from OptixEQ, and I'm going to just take a quick preview of the early pick five at Gulfstream Park on Friday, December the 9th. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of more of these green reports, but I'm going to just kind of do it via video this time. And I'm not going to delve into any particular race, just going to highlight a couple of horses you might consider. It's not a full-on handicapping, so you might want to look at some other horses, but I'm just give you my general view of the race and then point some things out. Okay. So the first race is a route race. It's a turf for 2-year-olds, maiden claimers. And, these early races at Gulfstream have been really tricky during the meet early on here. So horses have been trying surfaces for the first time, either synthetic turf coming from other venues. So it's always difficult, and having a good set of notes at least helps with trying to figure some of these things out. So in this first race, the one thing I looked at is kind of the speed figures of the horses here. I just kind of go down the list, and it's like typically par, I think for this race is around 75, 77, something like that. So more like 77. So the only one horse really kind of fits that. So you can see the race is kind of subpar. So anytime you get that, and I haven't looked at work reports or anything like that, or the trainer, you always have to consider a first-time starter, so that's the 7. So I don't know if this horse could run, but I would have looked at his works. But that's something you just want to consider when you're handicapping these types of races. When you see these horses can't even reach the par, well, they've already kind of, in essence, they've kind of failed at this level. So you want to kind of start look elsewhere, some fresh shooters. So that's the first thing. So you look at horses that are first-time starters, horses run for the first time or getting dropped from a higher level, like a maiden special weight. And you got to be careful with the maiden special weight drops. There's a few in this race, but make sure that doing it on par. In other words, if they're coming from a different track, that maiden special weight may not be the same thing as a Gulfstream. So you can look at some of the things that like the purse, what we have here. You look at the purse structure, you look at some of those other things. We're going to have some other class stuff coming in beginning of next year, so you'll be able to help you even decide that a little bit more easily. So stay tuned for that. So anyway, that's kind of some of the things you look for. You're looking for droppers. You're looking for horses that are lightly raced. And one I just want to point out one particular horse. Not crazy about the morning line of 4-1. Just seems kind of light to me. But the number 3, Remember Sun, this horse debuted at Delaware on the dirt, sprinting in a maiden special weight, now getting dropped. And this horse was in a race where he had trouble to start, and then the field got really spaced out. They went really fast early, really fast in the middle fractions. And this horse found its way back and really kind of lost contact with the field, and the whole field got strung out. This horse looks like he wants more distance, and he actually looks a little turfy, even though I didn't project the turf because I didn't feel that confident. But in a race like this, I'd be willing to take a shot. Really glad to see Chavez take the bound. That kind of indicates that this horse might be well meant. Gets the drop here, and I just think he's one to consider. You can see they wanted to get him on the turf in his next start, Delaware, where he got scratched because it got taken off. So they didn't give him another dirt race. So it looked like the intent was always to probably go to the turf, and maybe that first race was a prep. So check this horse out. Looks like they're taking the blinkers off too. So that horse might be live in race 1. Okay. So that's race 1. I'm going to clear out my drawings here and go to race 2. And again, it's another difficult race. It's not easy. I think it was it's non-2 lifetime. Those races are always difficult. You have a bunch of horses that just aren't that good. Look at the number 1. Look at all the starts number 1. Look at all the starts a lot of these horses have. So another race where you want to be looking at lightly raced horses. I think the 4 fit the bill, and also the 3. 3, if you look at his last race, he was a blistering pace. This horse was up close to the pace up till like around 6 furlong marker, and then kind of couldn't keep up, and then didn't get pushed the rest of the way. So I think this probably was a good prep Horse went from synthetic, going 2 turns, getting back into a sprint where you can see this horse has been very competitive. Sprinting, has run 80 and 75 in the 2 previous races. Again, a more lightly raced horse than some of these others. A definite win contender. 6-1 is a great price. I think. I don't know if you can get that. I'm not sure, but that would be a horse I would include. I think the 4, who is, I guess, the 8-5 morning line favorite, is another one to consider. The horse kind of just in the pre-race broke through the gate and ran off at Belmont. This is a big, I guess it's Aqueduct, Belmont at Aqueduct. So this is a big drop. Not crazy that the horse got laid off there, and then now the drop. So a little iffy on that. But just in a race where, if you look at the other horses, they just had their chances at this non-2 level and haven't been able to really dent it or make any kind of dent. So it's just like, I don't like the rest of the field. I think the 3 is going to be the most value, and the 4 is just a horse you have to use, and looks like it's going to be a favorite in this race, but prefer the 3. You just quickly take a look at the plot. Yeah, really like how the plot lays out for the 3 too. So yeah, that horse got a big shot. Like the price. So one to consider in race 2. I'm going to flip over to race 3. Doesn't get any easier, does it, folks? Here's a race where I'm going to use notes in a negative way. Someone always asks me, like, look for positive things. I'm going to look for some negative things. So the first negative thing to look at is these horses are all running C's at either around today's level. This horse is dropping a little bit. So that's one thing, and had trouble to start. So whatever. But these other 2 horses have had their chances level, just running C's. So to me, the 3, 6, I don't know how you say that, and the 5 look like tosses to me. And then that one kind of leaves you with the favorite, and then first-time starters. So I really would consider a first-time starter here. Now, would I want to include this favorite or not? I'm leaning against it. I know this horse is getting taken over by a trainer who's kind of hot now. Ortiz takes the mount. That looks positive. But 8-5 on this horse, and you see this grit minus. That's a negative. That's not grit. Grit is just grit, and it's green. Well, it's not green. I just think, but the grit minus is negative grit. So the horse looked like he kind of hung or something in that last race. Didn't like how he finished it up. Coming back, kind of getting a little boost in class too, right? I mean, just this horse ran for a little bit of a lower level last time, couldn't get it done. It's going to get well over bet. So, I mean, it's up to you if you include this horse. But this race, you may want to take a shot. I think the only way you can take a shot in this race is really with the firsters. So that would be the 1, 2, 6, and 7. You might want to just take a look at their workouts, maybe take a look at the trainer patterns, and see if there's something that kind of resonates with you. But yeah, I would look at 1, 2, 6, and 7 here. Maybe possibly play against the 8. Just not convinced. So I think you could, if you move on, and maybe with a price that's not the favorite in this race, be a good thing. And that's about all I can recommend for this race. So I'm going to move on and go to race 4. Let's see what I have for race 4. Okay, so race 4 is Turf Route, another non-2 lifetime. Like I told you, these races are really difficult. But in this race, I'm not going to get into the whole round and who you play and stuff, but I do have a horse that I think you need to consider at a big price, and that's the 4. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name because I'm not quite sure. But this horse coming off a pretty significant layoff. But he's kind of moving up in class, which is interesting. And if you kind of look at this horse's synthetic races, which were pretty good, going a route of ground, they were pretty good as a 2-year-old. If this horse actually progressed, and he didn't, right? He kind of never progressed from this. But he's got these races in him somewhere. If he can get back to one of those races, I think this horse could be really dangerous in a really weak field, right? You can see the fig range at 70 to 76, and a lot of these horses, again, it's this non-2 level. Some of them actually even going up, right? You can see the 3. I'm just looking at the ones above them. These horses are going up. This horse is kind of staying the same level. So This horse has the race is good enough. Now, how do you get to that? Well, if you just look at this last race, it was on dirt. That's not the horse's preferred surface. Got kickback. Let's cross that one out because that horses could run 20 points better races after kickback. So that's the thing. The synthetic, again, that was sprinting. This horse is, all these races were sprinting. His route races, to try to comparatively, you can say, well, he didn't run good in the route races here. Yeah, but that was against 35,000, okay, which is a significantly different kind of race than it is today. It's a little bit of a shot, but this horse is 20-1, and he's really facing a field that's really subpar. So if you can kind of make some forgiveness for that, get him back to these races where he ran 77, 78, 71. Again, he broke his maiden at 35 level, which is above a lot of where these other horses broke their level, their maiden level. So this horse can be really sneaky in this race. You got a trainer. Let's look at I just want to show you something. One thing I look for trainers is not so much all these kind of statistics, because if it's not relevant, most things are situational. But I look for sneaky hot trainers, especially early in a meet like this. And if you look at the trainer jockey V bars, I'm just going to filter in. I'm going to take them all out. I'm just going to filter in on trainer win percentage of the meet. Look at where this 4 is, right? I mean, you're having a good meet early. You got a crap race. You got a sneaky horse. Look, you can use other horses in this race, but I would include that one because at 20-1, the horse is good enough to win this race. And if he can get back one of those races, got a hot barn, they're firing on all cylinders early in the meet. Why not? It's worth a shot. You can kind of make some excuses for the races before the layoff. So, yeah, number 4, include that horse at a big price in your exotics, even underneath if you're playing, vertically in this race. Okay, so that said, we're going to go to the last race, the 5th race. Yeah, okay, so this race I'm going to go to the plot for, because this is, we got some form in this race, right? We got a race that's claiming, it's a low-level claiming, but it's not one of those non-2 winners. So we got some nice horses, horses that are, because they like to win, right? You can see the 1 here likes to win stuff. And even though I'm going to look at the contention looking like a sun and speed rating looking low, there's another dimension to the pace here that might suggest off the pace. So that is look at the run styles. There's an imbalance here. The run styles of these horses are E and EP. 6 out of the 8 horses fit that run style. Those are horses that either need the lead, absolutely, or need to be up close. And you can see you got left here just 2 closers, the 6 and the 7. If you look at, and I'm going to show you something, I don't know if you kind of pay attention to this, but if you look at the run styles of these horses, if you hover over the run style, you can see that you get some information comes up. And it tells you, what this tells you is that this horse, this EP, he runs his best races when he's 0 lengths back. So he's another horse that, even though he's an EP, his best races is when he's right on the lead, like within a half a length. So he's got to be up close. And you can see that we got the same thing with the 5. I mean, his best race is when he's a length back, right? So he's a presser, but you could see that all these horses want to be kind of up front. And they do their best running. Well, something's got to give there. And so this race, there's a potential for this race to set up for horses off the pace. 6 and the 7 kind of stand out in terms of their off the pace kind of ability, the large square, especially on the 7. But I would consider the 6. Those 2 are kind of big prices. So when you're looking at this pick 5, I could see like something like the 6 and 7 upsetting the apple cart, coming running late. This is a race where it doesn't look like it's all that fast in terms of contention, speed rating, but it goes more to run style. Run styles may set this up because, if a horse is not in that run style, then he's not going to probably do his best racing. Now, when you look at the early pace horses, it looks like the 5 is the best in terms of plotting. Okay, so he might have an advantage. So if you want to include the 5 in that mix, that makes sense too. Just because that's a horse that looks like he's got some finishability relative to the other horses. But there's a potential for this race to, like I said, to kind of maybe set up for somebody from off the pace. So maybe 5, 6, and 7. The other horse that has some green keywords is the 2. Had a trouble trip last time, traffic wide. So maybe this horse is he's coming off a layoff too. So something to look at there. But I just really want to look at this race from the pace perspective and just give you another perspective based on run styles. Okay, so that's the pick 5, early pick 5 at Gulfstream. Wish you the best of luck. If you want to check us out, go to OptixEQ.com, send us a message, check us out, check all the information out, and thanks for listening.